Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Sudan President Omar al-Bashir sworn in amid outcry. Siren wails throughout Israel in massive defense drill. And despite protests, Elton John performs in Morocco. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now. As Sudanese President Omar Hassan al-Bashir gets sworn in today for a new term, international pressure is mounting on Khartoum. The International Criminal Court, ICC, has filed a claim at the UN Security Council accusing Sudan of failing to arrest 2 suspects in connection with war crimes in Darfur. The ICC has indicted former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs Ahmed Haroun and Janjaweed militia leader Ali Mohammed Abed Rahman on nearly 90 charges. Our correspondent Fahima Mazani has the details in the following report.
This occasion was not a mere inauguration of a new leader for Sudan, a country that has been exhausted from years of war. During the inauguration ceremony, many stalled issues resurfaced in Khartoum. Among them was the issue of reunification between the South and the North.
We are working diligently to fulfill the aspirations of all Sudanese, including unity, stability, and development. The government will do everything in its power to protect the lives of citizens, their families, properties, as well as their dignity. Brothers and sisters, this is our platform for a peaceful solution in Darfur.
عود حكومة عمر حسن البشير يشتد إذن وتشتد معه التحديات أيضا.
The reign of Omar Hassan al-Bashir's government is gaining strength, and with it comes new challenges. The ICC has accused al-Bashir of collaborating with 2 suspects wanted for war crimes and crimes against humanity in the region of Darfur. For the first time in history, and only 24 hours before al-Bashir's inauguration, the ICC urged the Security Council to take action against a UN member state.
لولاية رئاسية جديدة. المحكمة الجنائية الدولية تتقدم بطلب لمجلس الأمن.
The ICC called on the UN Security Council to take action against Sudan over the harboring of 2 suspects wanted for war crimes in Darfur. The 2 suspects are the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and current governor of southern Kordofan, Ahmed Haroun, and senior armed Janjaweed militia leader Ali Mohammed Abed Rahman, also known as Kasib. Haroun and Abed Rahman are facing more than 90 charges stemming from their role in attacks on civilians in Darfur, in addition to charges of financing, recruiting, and arming Janjaweed militias. In the document, which was signed by 3 justices from the International Court of Justice at The Hague, the ICC directly accused Khartoum of failing to execute the arrest warrant issued in April 2007 against the 2 suspects. The ICC also urged the UN Security Council to take the proper measures to ensure that Khartoum complies with the court's order. It seems that the ICC has intensified its campaign against Sudan and its president. In April 2009, the ICC issued an arrest warrant against Omar al-Bashir for alleged war crimes against civilians in Darfur.
Israel's largest ever home front drill peaked today with an air raid siren heard throughout the country for 1.5 minutes at 11 o'clock this morning. Codenamed Turning Point 4, the exercise tested home front preparedness for a state of emergency. IBA's Eli Wogelenter was in Modi'in today and reports on residents' reactions to the exercise.
The nationwide 5-day home front defense drill, codenamed Turning Point 4, hit a peak this morning when sirens wailed across Israel, simulating a missile attack. Upon hearing the siren, the public was required to enter the closest protected area and remain inside for about 10 minutes. But not everyone did, as these shoppers at the Modi'in Mall continued drinking their coffee. Still, most people were not as cavalier about the procedure.
People are taking it seriously. I know my kids, they told me that they know that there was going to be a drill. Even my little ones in Ghana, in kindergarten, they tell me that there's going to be a drill and what they have to do. So, yeah, we're taking it seriously, but it's part of life, so we move on.
How do you explain to your children, little children, what this is about, what it's for, and does it scare them?
It doesn't really scare them, but they have some understanding about enemies and Arabs and people who hate the state of Israel. So they have these vague concepts.
I think that they're frightened to a certain extent, but they're aware of the situations that arise in the country that they live in. The ones, my children that are old enough to understand such things. And they feel lucky, they feel blessed to be living here. At the same time, that goes hand in hand with understanding the difficulties that arise in such a place.
Some children who are old enough did understand what was happening and why the drill is important.
Because if something happens, then you can have a safe place that you can go in, and then have a place that you can be safe in and not be scared.
Other mothers were more concerned with children too young to know what was going on, but who were affected nonetheless.
Noah, my son, he's 2.5 months old, got really, really angry and frustrated, and he also found himself under a lot of pressure, being surrounded by so many people, that he started screaming his head off. And I literally, after 2 minutes, was pushed out by people who were telling me, okay, it's just a targil, go feed him, go do something with him, because he wouldn't stop screaming, he just didn't calm down.
The nationwide exercise will conclude tomorrow. Dozens of local governments will practice absorbing refugees from areas under rocket fire. But most of these exercises are meant for specific areas and are not expected to disrupt normal life.
Numerous serious charges were filed in the district court of the city of Haifa against Amir Mahoul, the head of the Union of Arab Community-Based Associations inside the Green Line. Among the charges are spying on behalf of the Lebanese Hezbollah. Mahoul has denied the charges levied against him and told Al Jazeera that he has been subjected to torture by the Israeli investigators.
Similarly, charges were filed against Omar Saeed, an activist in the National Democratic Assembly. They include making contact with a foreign agent and providing information to the benefit of the enemy.
Our correspondent, Elias Karam, followed the trials of Mahoul and Saeed.
These are the first moments in which Amir Mahoul sees the outside world after having spent 20 days in the cellars of intelligence headquarters. He seemed exhausted but confident in justice for his case. In Haifa's district court, the list of accusations against him was presented. It included having contact with and spying on behalf of the Lebanese Hezbollah and assisting the group in a time of war. However, Mahoul confirmed that investigators got his statement by torturing him, which included hanging and constant sleep deprivation.
I was tortured, and Shabak is controlling the court and legal proceedings. And yes, of course, we were tortured.
How were you tortured?
By hanging us for many consecutive hours. We were also not permitted to meet with a lawyer for 10 days. And the Shabak has basically controlled all the legal proceedings until now.
Mahoul denied the list of charges, which included having contact with a Hezbollah agent by the name of Hassan Gigi. The Israeli intelligence agency says that Mahoul provided the agent for many years with information related to strategic and military locations, the headquarters of the intelligence agency in Tel Aviv, the security arrangements in the Ministry of Defense, and those of the Prime Minister's and Defense Minister's motorcades. Similarly, and in the same case, an indictment was submitted to the Nazareth District Court against Omar Saeed, an activist in the National Democratic Assembly. He was accused of having contact with a foreign agent.
The charges are baseless. I have no intentions, neither now nor in the future, to work with any enemy entity. This whole matter has been exaggerated. It aims to suppress the Arab community as if...
From its side, the defense accused the Israeli intelligence agency of violating basic human rights principles, indicating that the use of torture to obtain statements renders them invalid.
If these accusations take this shape, then in this case, we say that they are fragmented, which is why the list of allegations was illegally formed.
The atmosphere in which the trial is taking place indicates that it could be used to incite against the Arab citizens and to doubt the legitimacy of their presence. It could also be used as an incentive to pass additional legislation to restrict freedoms and demand that Arabs swear allegiance to Israel as a Jewish Zionist state. Elias Karam, Al Jazeera. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Iran has repeatedly failed over the past few years to properly respond to attempts by Moscow to resolve the Iranian nuclear crisis. Lavrov also described Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's statement in which he criticized Russian President Dmitry Medvedev as emotional. He further said that Russia welcomes the uranium swap deal between Iran, Turkey, and Brazil.
There appears to be a shift in the position between Iran and Russia. Tehran has criticized Moscow over its approval of a new UN Security Council draft resolution calling for new sanctions on Tehran over its nuclear program. In response, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad sharply criticized his Russian counterpart, Dmitry Medvedev.
We didn't expect at this critical time that our neighbour Russia will stand by our enemies, who have expressed animosity toward our nation for 30 years. Russia must declare its position, otherwise our nation will add it to the list of Iran's historical enemies.
Moscow,
which has saved Tehran several times from the threats of sanctions, countered Ahmadinejad's latest remarks. Moscow expressed shock and reiterated that its relations with Tehran are based on mutual interests and governed by international resolutions that ban Iran from possessing nuclear weapons. In addition, Russia said that its decision to support UN sanctions on Iran was due to the way Tehran has been dealing with the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. Russia also accused Tehran of failing to clearly declare its nuclear position, especially as the West continues to accuse Iran of seeking to develop nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, Russia said that the new sanctions will not affect its S-300 missiles deal with Iran or the start of operations at the Bushehr nuclear plant. Mahmoud Abed Karim, Al Arabiya.
On the Iranian internal front, reformist leaders sharply criticized the foreign policy of Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Mehdi Karoubi said that Ahmadinejad's foreign policy is failing and creating more enemies for Iran.
Iranian reformist leaders criticized Russia long before Ahmadinejad did. Almost immediately after the election results were announced in Iran, Moscow voiced its support for Ahmadinejad's bid for the presidency, igniting a wave of criticism by Iranian reformist leaders. The foreign policies of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad will continue to be at the center of the criticism by the reformist leaders. Reformist leader Mehdi Karoubi described Ahmadinejad's foreign policy as unbalanced, creating more enemies for Iran. On the verge of the anniversary of the presidential elections, Karoubi said that the Iranian authorities have failed to quell the reformist movement and called on the appropriate authority to review the presidential elections. He added that the mass movement in Iran will continue until the Iranian nation is granted all of its rights. In another development, the head of Tehran's provincial council said that he has not received a request from the reformists to hold peaceful demonstrations on the anniversary of the presidential elections. From their side, Ahmadinejad's supporters organized a rally in front of the state prosecutor's office in Tehran. The protesters chanted slogans against those they referred to as the heads of mutiny. They also renewed calls for the arrests of reformist leaders Mir Hossein Mousawi, Mehdi Karoubi, former Iranian President Mohammad Khatami, as well as Faiza and Mehdi, the daughter and son of the head of the Iranian Expediency Council, Hashmi Rafsanjani. The protesters accused reformist leaders of larceny and humiliating the guide and founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Moreover, Iranian state television, which is run by Ahmadinejad's supporters, aired a documentary on what it described as the larceny of former Iranian member of parliament and reformist leader Fatemeh Hakikaju. Hakikaju received an award in the U.S. for her efforts in defending women's rights and freedom in Iran.
As Germany is sending additional soldiers to Afghanistan, many more are returning home, traumatized by combat operations. The German defense minister has visited a new trauma center at Berlin's Armed Forces Hospital. Stefan Hermann reports.
German Defense Minister Karl Theodor zu Guttenberg visited the newly established trauma center of the Bundeswehr Hospital in Berlin. Soldiers returning from missions abroad will be treated for post-traumatic stress disorder as numbers are on the rise. Between 2006 and 2008, the cases of soldiers suffering from PTSD have more than trebled, rising from 83 to 245.
The people have seen the terrible pictures from Kunduz, where fellow soldiers die or get seriously injured, where soldiers have been under heavy fire or even injured themselves. These are entirely new experiences for the German armed forces.
Only last month, 7 German soldiers were killed in combat and 13 injured in Afghanistan. And as the German army is more often involved in military operations, the number of those suffering from traumas is growing too. According to the head of the trauma center, Peter Zimmermann, half of the soldiers returning home are heavily distressed by their experiences. 12% of those are in need of psychological medical attention. The new trauma center with 45 employees will help the soldiers to reintegrate into society.
This is of prime importance. We must bring the issue of traumatization and post-traumatic stress disorder into the limelight of public debate. It can help us discuss the matter more profoundly.
Last week, the 5 leading German peace research institutes concluded that the NATO's mission in Afghanistan has failed, as it did not bring security and stability to the Afghan people. And according to the German Institute for Economic Research, the deployment to Afghanistan costs 3 times as much as the official figures show. With Germany facing tough fiscal measures, many call for cutting costs from the military budget. The Association of Armed Forces is alarmed.
Chancellor Merkel's recent government declaration promising the soldiers the support of the German people must have more than an ideological meaning.
Defense Minister zu Guttenberg already said German troops would begin accompanying Afghan soldiers on patrol to combat militants together, a move that will put them at even greater risks. Additional troops are expected to be deployed in July, bringing the total number of German soldiers in Afghanistan to more than 5,000. With the German military increasingly engaged in combat operations abroad, there is a significant rise in traumatized soldiers returning home. But the military is already short of psychiatrists and has little experience in dealing with the problem, a problem that is set to become more urgent in the coming years.
رئيس مجلس الأمة الكويتي جاسم الخرافي أشار إلى أن الكويت.
The Speaker of the Kuwaiti National Assembly, Jassim al-Kharafi, said that his country is concerned with Iraq's stability. During a meeting with his Iraqi counterpart, Iyad al-Samara'i, in Kuwait, al-Kharafi said that his country is committed to expanding its relations with Iraq. He also called for expediting the implementation of the U.S. Security Council resolutions aimed at resolving the outstanding issues between the two countries. He further said that some who are seeking to disrupt his country's relations with Iraq will not miss any opportunity to do so.
On the ground, Iraqi security forces in Mosul arrested 7 terror suspects in connection with the assassination of Iraqi bloc parliamentarian Bashar Aghaidi and seized the car that was used in the attack.
Meanwhile, Iraqi security forces in Baghdad stepped up their security measures to pursue and capture the remaining terror suspects involved in yesterday's attack on the Bayah district.
7 suspects accused of taking part in the assassination of Iraqi bloc parliamentarian Bashar Aghaidi were arrested by Iraqi security forces in a series of raid and search operations across the city of Ninawa. For security reasons, the command center of the 3rd Iraqi Federal Police Brigade declined to release additional information. The 7 suspects were arrested in an area close to the crime scene in the Amel neighborhood. This is also where the suspect's car was found and seized. In another development, U.S. forces released 16 detainees from Cropper Prison, which holds nearly 3,000 Iraqi inmates. The release was conducted in cooperation with the Iraqi National Security Council and the U.S. Command Center of Detainee Operations, as stipulated in the security agreement signed between Baghdad and Washington.
This is due in part to the efforts exerted by the Iraqi government. Some of the free detainees may have been victims of malicious practices. Others will be transferred to the custody of the Ministry of Interior or the Iraqi judiciary, where the cases will be reviewed. Then they will be released in accordance with the National Unity Initiative.
Today, military leaders from the joint forces in areas south of Baghdad held a press conference to report on their latest achievements, which included the discovery of a large cache of arms, military gear, and munitions.
Today, we carried out a security operation in the area of Siyafiye. We uncovered a large arms cache, which included 150 Strela missiles, 40 Katyusha rockets, 150 Strela shells, 200 anti-tank missiles, and 40 hand grenades.
Meanwhile, Iraqi security forces continue to carry out their operation, dubbed Lion's Leap, in pursuit of wanted suspects. In the Iraqi capital, the Baghdad Command Center and its intelligence division stepped up their security measures aimed at pursuing and capturing the terror suspects responsible for the criminal attack on the Baya district. The security agencies said that they have gathered conclusive evidence in the case.
For
the first time, Elton John has performed in Morocco at the 9th Mousine Music Festival in Rabat. Elton John's invitation to participate in the festival has ignited a wave of criticism between Islamists and modernity advocates. The conflict turned political after the Islamist Justice and Development Party took the case to Parliament.
The voices of artists from 50 countries can be heard on 8 stages. Among them is Elton John, famous around the world and controversial in the Arab world. His participation in the Mousine Festival generated a lot of criticism, and his homosexuality caused the Islamists to call for the prevention of his participation. His description of Jesus as a gay man brought the indignation of some scholars.
This singer parades around his homosexuality, and we have Islamic references that are incompatible with him in this path, so we are against the presence of this singer in Morocco.
The call made by the Islamist Justice and Development Party was refuted. The organisers of the festival say that the homosexuality of this man is a private issue, and that the Islamists are trying to undermine personal freedom. According to the organisers, the only issues that matter are the artist's level of performance and artistic path.
For us, the artistic path is the only issue that we care about. The artist's personal choices and private life do not concern us.
All musical expressions are present in the Mousine Festival. Music genres from 5 continents differ in rhythms and accents, with more than 100 singers from around the world. The great reputation of the festival stems from its varied artistic expressions that please all musical tastes and the mixture of different cultures. This Mousine Festival witnessed unprecedented security and regulatory measures to prevent a repeat of last year's stampede that killed 11 people. Hassan Fatah, BBC, Al Rabat.
Necessity is the mother of invention. With the sand of Gaza's sea, residents are building their homes and houses of worship. A special report by colleague Mohammed Al-Madhoun.
During the last war on Gaza, not only did Israel shell houses of worship, it also shelled the houses of the worshippers. This mosque is one of 45 mosques that were completely destroyed by the occupation. So far, this is old news, but what's new is that the mosque was rebuilt, not with cement or mud, but this time with sand. Architect Hassan Abu Kmel is the first one to have applied this idea to build with sand in accordance with the dome system. He studied the system for 6 months, and in 8 days he was able to implement it alongside some workers.
Of course, this idea came simply because of the supply of sand, and Gaza, of course, is very rich in sand and mud and such supplies. Honestly, when we first thought about the matter, it was due to the siege in Gaza.
After they're completed, walls built with these sandbags will look just like regular brick walls that are coated with cement on the outside. On average, building with sand lasts 35 years. Its construction cost is low, and it does not exceed 1/4 of the regular construction cost. The majority of these will be allocated to enthusiastic workers, committed to resisting the enemy's siege.
This type of building is mostly for the workers. We get the kind and size of bag that we want. Of course, these bags are also produced in the Gaza Strip. We get rolls of bags and choose the sizes that we want according to the demand.
There is no cement or metal, so we completed the work with sand, and we are very happy that we found work and something to work with because of what was destroyed.
Gazans did not simply apply that concept to destroyed buildings. In a horse club by the seaside, they are building awnings and theaters for the summer visitors. Summer is approaching, and Gaza insists on enjoying it despite the circumstances.
The idea was to challenge our siege. The lack of cement, metal, and construction material that the Israeli enemy has prevented us from having. So we needed to take action and seek alternatives. Mud was used at first, and we hope that the new idea of sandbags will catch on.
With every additional day under the siege, innovations grow in the minds of Gazans, which allow them to continue their lives and reinforce the components of their resistance in the face of their besiegers. These innovations that started in the tunnels, continued with mud homes, now reach these unfinished sand buildings. So if you lose sight of Gaza, its residents promise you that there are still many images of the breaking of the siege. Mohammed Al-Mahoun, New TV, Gaza, Palestine.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible from support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news. Read our blog. Get transcripts of past shows and more at linktv.org/mosaic.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.